You were never enough for him, Maya. You were just practice. Now he's ready for the real thing. My best friend since college said that to me, in my own kitchen, while wearing my robe, after I caught her sleeping with my husband. She didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She just stood there, leaning against my refrigerator like she belonged there, and delivered those words like she was doing me a favor. Derek stood behind her, my husband of 4 years, the man I had built a life with, the man I thought I would grow old with. He couldn't even look me in the eyes. He just stared at his feet like a guilty child. But Jasmine, she looked right at me, and she smiled. That smile broke something inside me. Not my heart. My heart was already shattered on the floor. No, that smile broke something else. It broke the version of me that believed in loyalty, in friendship, in love. That was 5 years ago. This morning, I walked into my office on the 34th floor of a downtown high-rise. My name is on the building directory. My company employs 47 people. Last quarter, we closed deals worth $12 million, and 2 of those 47 employees? Derek and Jasmine. That's right. My ex-husband and my ex-best friend now work for me. They answer to me. They depend on my signature for their paychecks. Before I tell you how that happened, before I explain how the woman who was left with $200 in her bank account became their boss, I need you to do something. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Because this story is for you, and trust me, the ending is going to be worth the wait. My name is Maya. I'm 31 years old. I'm the founder and CEO of Elevate Recruiting, one of the fastest-growing executive placement firms on the East Coast. We specialize in placing C-suite executives at Fortune 500 companies. When a tech giant needs a new CFO, they call us. When a pharmaceutical company needs a VP of operations, they call us. We're not a temp agency. We're kingmakers. Last year, we did $14 million in revenue. This year, we're projected to hit 20. I have a corner office with a view that makes visitors stop mid-sentence. I have a Mercedes in the parking garage and a condo in the nicest part of the city. But 5 years ago? 5 years ago, I was sitting on the floor of an empty apartment, counting coins from a jar, trying to figure out if I could afford both electricity and food that week. I chose electricity. I ate ramen for a month. People look at me now, and they see confidence. They see success. They see a woman who has it all figured out. They don't see the woman who cried herself to sleep for 3 months straight. They don't see the woman who had to borrow money from her grandmother just to put gas in her car. They don't see the woman who was so broken she couldn't even say her own name without her voice cracking. That woman existed. She was real. And honestly, I'm grateful for her because she's the one who made me who I am today. Every tear she cried, every sleepless night she endured, every moment she wanted to give up but didn't. That's what built the foundation I'm standing on now. The betrayal didn't destroy me, it transformed me. And the 2 people who tried to break me, they're about to learn that you should be very careful about who you underestimate. I still remember the exact moment I decided that my pain would become my power. It wasn't in the kitchen, watching Jasmine smirk at me. It wasn't in the lawyer's office signing divorce papers. It wasn't even when I checked my bank account and saw that Derek had drained everything except $200. It was 3 weeks after all of that. I was sitting in my grandmother's house, the same house where I had spent my summers as a child. I was broke. I was broken. I was 30 pounds lighter because I couldn't eat. I was a shell of the woman I used to be. And my grandmother looked at me with those wise eyes and said something I will never forget. Baby girl, they took everything from you. Everything except the one thing that matters. They couldn't take your mind. And that mind of yours? It's going to build something they can't even imagine. She was right. She was so incredibly right. Let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you how I met Derek, how I trusted Jasmine, and how the 2 people I loved most became the 2 people who destroyed my world. I met Derek at a networking event when I was 24 years old. I was working as a junior recruiter at a small staffing agency. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. I had a gift for reading people, for matching the right person with the right opportunity. Derek was a sales manager at a software company. He walked up to me at the cocktail hour, handed me his business card, and said, "I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for your phone number." It was cheesy. It was forward. It should have been a red flag. But he had this smile, this disarming, boyish smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. And when he laughed, his whole face lit up. I had never met anyone who seemed so genuinely interested in every word I said. We went on our first date 3 days later. By the end of the month, we were inseparable. By the end of the year, he proposed. I thought I had found my person, my partner, my forever. I was so naive. Jasmine and I had been best friends since freshman year of college. We were roommates by accident. The housing office paired us together, and best friends by choice. She was everything I wasn't. Outgoing where I was reserved, flashy where I was subtle. She walked into every room like she owned it, and somehow she usually ended up owning it. I admired her confidence. I thought it was inspiring. I didn't realize it was actually something else, entitlement. Jasmine believed she deserved whatever she wanted, whether it belonged to her or not. But I didn't see that back then. I just saw my best friend. The woman who held my hair back when I drank too much at parties. The woman who helped me study for exams. The woman who cried with me when my mother passed away. When I started dating Derek, Jasmine was thrilled for me, or at least that's what she said. "He's perfect for you," she would gush. "You two are like a fairy tale." I introduced them early in the relationship. Derek and Jasmine got along great, maybe too great, but I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? She was my best friend. He was my boyfriend. Of course they would be friends too. Looking back, the signs were there from the very beginning. I just refused to see them. Derek and I got married when I was 26. Small ceremony, big dreams. We had about 60 guests, mostly family and close friends. Jasmine was my maid of honor. She gave a toast at the reception that made everyone cry. She talked about friendship, about love, about how Maya and Derek were proof that good people find each other. The whole time she was speaking, she kept looking at Derek. I thought she was just including him in the toast. Now I know she was including herself in our marriage. The first 2 years were good. Really good. Derek and I were building our life together. We bought a small house in the suburbs. We talked about having kids. We went on date nights every Friday. But somewhere in year 3, things started to shift. Derek became distant. He was working late more often. He was on his phone constantly, always angling the screen away from me. He stopped initiating intimacy. He stopped saying, "I love you" first. I asked him about it, multiple times. And every time, he had an excuse. Work stress, a difficult client, a big project. He promised things would get better once this quarter ended, once this deal closed. Once this crisis passed, I believed him. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You believe them. Jasmine started coming over more often. "Just to hang out," she would say. "I miss my best friend." She would show up when Derek was home, always with some excuse. She was in the neighborhood, she needed advice, she wanted to borrow something. They had inside jokes I didn't understand. They would reference conversations I wasn't part of. Sometimes I would walk into a room and they would suddenly stop talking, like I had interrupted something. "We were just discussing the game," Derek would say. "I was asking his opinion on a guy I'm dating," Jasmine would explain. I accepted these explanations because the alternative was unthinkable. My husband and my best friend? No, that was impossible. That was the stuff of bad movies and tabloid stories. That didn't happen in real life, except it did. It was happening right under my nose. For almost a year, the secret phone calls, the work trips that were actually hotel rooms, the girls' nights that Jasmine used as alibis. They had built an entire secret life together, and I was too in love to see it until the morning I came home early from a business trip. My flight was supposed to land at 6 p.m., but the conference ended early, and I managed to get on a standby flight that arrived at noon. I didn't tell Derek. I wanted to surprise him. I even stopped at his favorite bakery and bought those croissants he loved. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Jasmine's car. My first thought was that she had stopped by to keep Derek company while I was gone. How sweet, I thought. My husband and my best friend, hanging out. I walked in through the garage door. The house was quiet, too quiet. I put the croissants on the kitchen counter. I called out, "Derek, Jasmine, I'm home early." No response. I walked toward the bedroom. The door was closed. I could hear voices inside, low voices, and then other sounds. My hand was on the doorknob before my brain caught up with what was happening. I turned the handle, I pushed open the door, and there they were, in my bed, in my house, in my life. The croissants are still on the counter. I never ate them. I never went back for them. To this day, I can't look at a croissant without feeling sick. The next few minutes are a blur. I remember screaming. I remember Derek jumping out of bed, grabbing his clothes, stammering excuses that didn't even form complete sentences. But mostly I remember Jasmine. She didn't scramble. She didn't apologize. She got up slowly, wrapped herself in my robe, and walked past me like I was an inconvenience. I followed her to the kitchen. I needed answers. I needed to understand how my entire life had become a lie. "How long?" I asked. My voice was shaking. Everything was shaking. Jasmine opened my refrigerator and took out a bottle of water. My water. In my kitchen, after sleeping with my husband. "About 11 months, she said casually, like she was telling me the weather. 11 months. Almost a year. Almost a year of lies, of deception, of looking me in the face and pretending to be my friend while stabbing me in the back. Why?" I whispered. And that's when she said it. That's when she delivered the words that would fuel my transformation for the next 5 years. "You were never enough for him, Maya. You were just practice. Now he's ready for the real thing." Derek finally made it to the kitchen. He was dressed now, but he looked like a man facing a firing squad. "Maya, I can explain." "Explain what?" I turned on him. "Explain how you've been sleeping with my best friend for almost a year. Explain how you've been lying to my face every single day. Explain how you looked me in the eyes last week and said you loved me." He didn't have answers. He just had excuses. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. He was confused. He was going through something. He never meant to hurt me. Never meant to hurt me. He accidentally fell into bed with my best friend for 11 months. It was all just a big misunderstanding. The worst part was watching him stand there, unable to choose. Even caught red-handed, even with his affair exposed, he couldn't look at me and say, "I choose you." He couldn't look at Jasmine and say, "I choose her." He just stood there, paralyzed by his own weakness. That's when I realized something important. I wasn't losing a good man. I was losing a coward. And cowards aren't worth crying over. But I cried anyway. For weeks. The divorce was fast. I didn't want to drag it out. I wanted Derek out of my life as quickly as possible. What I didn't expect was how thoroughly he would screw me financially. Our bank accounts were joint. 3 days after I caught them, I went to withdraw money for a lawyer. The account that should have had $12,000 had $200. Derek had moved everything else to a new account in his name only. "It's my money," he said when I confronted him. "I earned it." I had worked just as hard as he did. I had contributed to our household. I had supported him when he was between jobs, but because his salary was higher, because his name was on most of the accounts, he felt entitled to take everything. The house was in his name. He had bought it before we got married, so I had no claim to it. The car I drove was leased under his name. He demanded I return it within 2 weeks. My lawyer did what she could, but without money for a proper legal fight, I was outgunned. I got a small settlement, barely enough to cover first and last month's rent on a tiny apartment, and my personal belongings. Derek got the house, the savings, and Jasmine. I got $200 and a broken heart. A week after the divorce was finalized, Jasmine called me. I don't know why I answered. Morbid curiosity, maybe. Or perhaps I still couldn't believe that the person I had trusted most could be so cruel. "I just wanted you to know," she said, "that we're moving into the house. Derek asked me to move in. I thought you should hear it from me." She thought she was being considerate. She actually believed she was doing me a favor by telling me that she was taking over my life. "We're going to redecorate," she continued. "That kitchen was always too dark, and the bedroom needs new energy. You know, fresh start. Fresh start." She was erasing me from my own home. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I want us to be okay eventually," she said. "We were friends for so long. I don't want this to define us." I laughed. Actually laughed. It was either that or scream. "Jasmine," I said slowly, "we are never going to be okay. And someday, you're going to realize that you didn't win anything. You just inherited a coward and a house full of bad karma." I hung up. I blocked her number. I blocked both of their numbers. And then I sat on the floor of my empty apartment and wondered how I was going to survive. My new apartment was 400 square feet. One room that served as bedroom, living room, and dining room. A kitchen the size of a closet. A bathroom where you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms out. I had no furniture. I slept on an air mattress that leaked, so every morning I would wake up basically on the floor. I had one pot, one pan, 2 plates, and mismatched utensils I had bought at a thrift store. For the first month, I barely functioned. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, pretended everything was fine. Then I came home and fell apart. I lost weight because I couldn't afford food and couldn't stomach eating anyway. I stopped returning calls from family because I couldn't bear to explain what had happened. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my relationship, and wondering how I had missed the signs. The depression was a physical weight. It pressed on my chest. It made breathing hard. It made existing exhausting. I thought about giving up, not in a dangerous way, but in a surrendering way. Just stopping, letting life happen to me instead of trying to fight for anything. But then my grandmother called. Grandma Ruth was 82 years old and sharper than people half her age. She had survived Jim Crow, raised 6 children, buried a husband, and built a small fortune through real estate investments that everyone told her a Black woman couldn't make. She didn't do sympathy. She didn't do coddling. She did truth. "Come stay with me for a while," she said. It wasn't a question. I drove 4 hours to her house in North Carolina. I pulled into her driveway, and she was standing on the porch like she had been waiting there all day. Maybe she had. She didn't hug me right away. She just looked at me, really looked, and I saw her eyes fill with tears. "Oh, baby girl," she whispered. "They really did a number on you." Then she hugged me, and I fell apart in a way I hadn't allowed myself to fall apart since this whole nightmare began. I stayed with my grandmother for 3 weeks. She fed me. She let me sleep. She didn't ask questions until I was ready to answer them, and when I finally told her everything, she listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said the words that changed my life. "Baby girl, they took everything from you, everything except the one thing that matters." I looked at her confused. "What's that?" "They couldn't take your mind. And that mind of yours, it's going to build something they can't even imagine." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Your grandfather and I started with less than you have right now. We had $17 and a dream. And we built something that put all our children through college and left enough for their children too. That was different," I said. "That was a different time." "No." She shook her head firmly. "The time doesn't matter. The circumstances don't matter. What matters is what you decide to do with your pain." She took my hands in hers. "You can let this destroy you. You can spend the next 10 years feeling sorry for yourself, blaming them, wishing things were different. Or you can use this fire burning inside you and build something so big that those 2 fools will have to look up just to see your shadow." "I don't know how," I admitted. "I don't know where to start." "You start with what you know. You're good at connecting people. You're good at seeing potential where others see nothing. That's a gift, Maya. Use it." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let Derek and Jasmine be the end of my story. They were going to be the beginning. I went back to the city with a new mindset. I was still broke. I was still hurting. But now I had direction. My grandmother had given me 2 things before I left. First, a check for $5,000. "It's not a gift, it's an investment," she said. "Pay me back when you're a millionaire." Second, she gave me advice. "Don't compete with others. Don't waste energy on revenge. Just build. Build something so good that success becomes your revenge. I quit my job at the staffing agency. My boss thought I was crazy. You're throwing away a steady paycheck in this economy, but I knew something he didn't. I had spent 5 years learning the recruiting business from the inside. I knew what worked and what didn't. I knew where the industry was heading, and I knew I could do it better on my own. I filed the paperwork for my LLC on a Tuesday afternoon. Elevate Recruiting. The name came to me in the shower. I wanted something that represented growth, aspiration, rising above. I had no clients. I had no office. I had a laptop, a phone, and $5,000 that had to last until I made my first placement. The odds were against me. The statistics said I would fail. Most new businesses don't survive their first year, but I had something statistics couldn't measure. I had something to prove. My first 3 months were brutal. I cold called hundreds of companies. I sent thousands of emails. I heard no so many times that the words started to lose meaning, but I kept going. Every rejection was practice. Every no was one step closer to yes. My break came from an unexpected place. A former colleague from my old job called me. She had moved to a tech startup that was struggling to find a head of engineering. Our HR department has been searching for 6 months, she said. We've used 3 different agencies. No one can find the right fit. I remembered how good you were at matching people. Any chance you could help? I told her I would try. I didn't tell her I was operating out of my 400-square-foot apartment with an air mattress as my only furniture. I spent 2 weeks on that search. I reached out to my network. I called people who knew people. I dug deep into LinkedIn, looking for candidates everyone else had overlooked, and I found him. A brilliant engineer who was underemployed at a smaller company, just waiting for the right opportunity. I connected him with the startup. He got the job. The startup paid me a $15,000 placement fee. $15,000. More money than I had seen in months. I sat in my apartment, staring at the check, and cried. Then I deposited it and got back to work. That first placement led to another, and another, and another. Word spread. The tech startup told their partners about me. Their partners told their contacts. Within 6 months, I had more clients than I could handle alone. I hired my first employee. Her name was Keisha, and she was hungry, talented, and reminded me of myself 3 years earlier. I couldn't pay her much, but I promised her growth. If this company succeeds, you succeed with it, I told her. I don't forget people who believe in me early. Keisha is still with me today. She's now my VP of Operations. By the end of year 1, Elevate Recruiting had placed 37 executives and generated $400,000 in revenue. By the end of year 2, we had 12 employees and had broken $1 million. I moved out of my tiny apartment and into a real condo. I bought furniture, actual furniture, not inflatable substitutes. I paid my grandmother back with interest, even though she tried to refuse it. I told you, she said, smiling, that mind of yours. But I wasn't satisfied. Success tasted good, but I knew I was capable of more. I wanted to build something that would last, something that would matter, something that would make my grandmother proud and make Derek and Jasmine regret ever underestimating me. In year 3, I made a decision that everyone said was crazy. I pivoted the entire company. The recruiting industry was changing. AI was coming. Automation was threatening to replace traditional headhunters. A lot of agencies were trying to fight the change, to pretend it wasn't happening. I decided to embrace it. I partnered with a tech firm to build proprietary software that would enhance our recruiters' abilities, not replace them. We used AI to identify candidates faster, to match skills more precisely, to predict cultural fit with scary accuracy. But we kept the human element. The software found the candidates. Our recruiters built the relationships. It was a gamble. We invested almost everything we had into the technology. There were months when I wasn't sure we would make payroll, but the gamble paid off. Our placement success rate jumped to 94%. Our time to fill dropped by half. Companies that had used traditional agencies started switching to us. By year 4, we were doing $10 million in revenue. By year 5, $14 million. We had 47 employees and offices in 3 cities. I had built something real, something valuable, something that would survive, and that's when karma decided to deliver Derek and Jasmine right to my doorstep. I was in my office, reviewing quarterly reports, when my assistant buzzed me. "There's a resume you need to see," she said. "It came through the general submissions. I think you'll find it interesting." She emailed it to me. I opened the attachment, Derek Mitchell, seeking employment, senior sales manager. My ex-husband had submitted his resume to my company. I read through it carefully. He had bounced between 3 jobs in the past 4 years. Each position was shorter than the last. His most recent employer had restructured. Corporate code for laid off. The man who had taken everything from me, who had left me with $200 and a broken heart, was now unemployed and desperate enough to submit a blind application to a recruiting firm. He had no idea I owned the company. Elevate Recruiting was my name, not my face. Our website featured the team, but I had always stayed in the background. He had applied to his ex-wife's company without even knowing it. I should have deleted the resume immediately. I should have blocked his email and moved on with my life, but I didn't. Instead, I picked up the phone and called HR. "Schedule an interview with Derek Mitchell," I said. "I'll be conducting it personally." Derek walked into the conference room looking nervous. He was wearing a suit that didn't fit quite right, probably bought when he was heavier, back when he had money for tailoring. He didn't recognize me at first. I was standing by the window, silhouetted against the light. And honestly, I had changed. 5 years of building a company had transformed me. I carried myself differently now. I looked different. I was different. "Mr. Mitchell," I said, turning around. "Thank you for coming in." The color drained from his face. For a moment, I thought he might faint. "Maya?" "Ms. Thompson," I corrected. "In this building, I'm Ms. Thompson. Please, have a seat." He sat. His hands were shaking. I didn't know this was your company," he stammered, clearly. I sat across from him, his resume open on the tablet in front of me. "Let's talk about your work history. I see you've had some instability in recent years." He tried to explain. The economy, bad luck, companies going under. None of it was his fault. I listened without expression, the same way he had listened without expression when I begged him to explain his affair. "What happened to your last position?" I asked. "Budget cuts," he said quickly. Too quickly. "Interesting, because I spoke with your former employer yesterday. They said you were let go for performance issues, something about missing targets for 4 consecutive quarters." He had no response. He just sat there, exposed, the way I had been exposed 5 years earlier. I could have destroyed him in that moment. I could have told him exactly what I thought of him, thrown his resume in his face, and had security escort him out. But my grandmother's voice echoed in my head. "Don't waste energy on revenge, just build." I looked at Derek, really looked at him, and I saw something I hadn't expected to see, a broken man, diminished, desperate. The confidence that had once charmed me was gone. The swagger that had made him seem so special had evaporated. He wasn't a villain anymore. He was just sad. "Here's what's going to happen," I said slowly. "I'm going to offer you a job, entry level, sales associate. It's beneath your experience, but frankly, your recent track record doesn't warrant anything higher." His eyes widened. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance. Whether you take it and what you do with it is up to you." "Why would you do that?" I leaned forward. "Because 5 years ago, I was at rock bottom. Someone gave me a chance when she didn't have to. I'm paying it forward. But make no mistake, this isn't forgiveness. This isn't friendship. This is business. You will work harder than anyone else on that sales floor. You will prove yourself every single day, and you will never, ever mention our history to anyone in this building." He nodded frantically. Yes, of course. Thank you, Maya. I mean, Ms. Thompson, thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't started working for me." Derek worked for me for 6 months before Jasmine entered the picture. And I have to admit, he worked hard, harder than I expected. He came in early, stayed late, and never complained. He hit his targets, then exceeded them. He treated his colleagues with respect and never mentioned that his boss was his ex-wife. Part of me was surprised. Part of me wondered if this was the man he could have been all along, if circumstances had been different. But I didn't dwell on it. He was an employee, a number on a spreadsheet. His personal redemption, if that's what this was, had nothing to do with me. Then, one day, my assistant buzzed me again. "There's a woman in reception asking to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. Her name is Jasmine Carter." Jasmine Carter. She had taken Derek's last name. Of course she had. "Tell her I'm not available." I did. She says she'll wait. She says it's about a job. A job. Jasmine was here looking for a job. I sat in my office for 10 minutes, debating. I could have her removed. I could refuse to see her. I could pretend she didn't exist. But curiosity got the better of me. And honestly, I wanted to see her face when she realized whose office she was sitting outside. Send her in. Jasmine walked into my office like she owned the place. Some things never change, but the moment she saw me, that confidence crumbled. "Maya, Ms. Thompson," I said. "Have a seat, Jasmine." She sat. Unlike Derek, she recovered quickly. She always was good at adapting, at pretending, at wearing whatever mask the situation required. "I didn't know this was your company," she said. "So you've said. Or rather, so your husband said 6 months ago when he sat in that same chair." Her face flickered. "Derek works here?" "He does. He's actually doing quite well, but we're not here to talk about Derek. We're here to talk about you. Why are you looking for a job, Jasmine?" The mask slipped, just for a second. I saw something underneath it that looked a lot like desperation. "Things have been difficult," she said carefully. "The economy. You know how it is." "I don't, actually. My company has grown 40% year over year. But please, continue." She told me the story in fragments, clearly editing as she went. She had been working in marketing at a mid-size firm. She had been let go during layoffs. She had been searching for 3 months without success. But I knew there was more. I always knew when Jasmine was hiding something. I had done my research before she walked in. One phone call to a contact at her former company told me everything. Jasmine hadn't been laid off. She had been fired for having an affair with her married boss. When his wife found out and threatened to sue the company, they let Jasmine go quietly with a small severance and a non-disclosure agreement. She had done it again. She had pursued someone else's husband, and this time there had been consequences. "Let me tell you what I know," I said, watching her face carefully. "You were having an affair with your CEO. His wife found out. The company fired you to avoid a scandal. You've been blacklisted in your industry because word spreads fast in marketing circles. No one will hire you because everyone knows what you did." Her face went white. "How do you—" "It's my job to know things, Jasmine. That's literally what I do." She sat in silence, completely exposed. The woman who had once told me I was just practice was now sitting in my office, her career in ruins, her reputation destroyed, begging for help. The irony was almost too perfect. I could have ended the meeting there. I could have told her to leave and never come back. I could have savored my revenge and sent her out into a world that wanted nothing to do with her. But something stopped me. Maybe it was my grandmother's voice again. Maybe it was the realization that Jasmine's downfall brought me no real satisfaction. Maybe it was the understanding that hurt people, and somewhere along the way, Jasmine had been hurt too. Or maybe I was just tired of carrying the weight of what she had done to me. Tired of the anger, tired of the bitterness. "I'm going to do something I shouldn't do," I said slowly. "I'm going to offer you a job." Jasmine's mouth fell open. "What?" "Entry level. Administrative assistant. It's a significant step down from where you were, but it's a paycheck. And more importantly, it's a chance to rebuild your reputation in a new industry." "Why?" she whispered. "After everything I did to you." "Why would you help me?" I considered my answer carefully. Because holding on to hatred is exhausting. Because I've built something I'm proud of, and I don't need your suffering to feel successful. And because, believe it or not, I remember the friend you used to be before everything went wrong. But there are conditions, I continued. Non-negotiable conditions. Jasmine nodded, still stunned. "First, you will never speak of our history to anyone in this company. As far as your coworkers know, I'm just your boss. Nothing more. Of course. Second, you will conduct yourself with complete professionalism. That means no inappropriate relationships with colleagues, clients, or anyone else connected to this business. If I hear even a whisper of you repeating old patterns, you're gone immediately, I understand. Third, you will work harder than you've ever worked in your life. No coasting, no relying on charm to get by. Results only. Yes, I can do that. And fourth, I paused. I want you to apologize. Not for me. I've moved past what you did, but I want you to say the words so that you hear them, so that you acknowledge what happened. Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. There's no excuse. I was selfish and cruel, and I destroyed something precious. I've regretted it every day since, not because of how my life turned out, because of how I hurt you. You didn't deserve any of it. She was crying now. Real tears, not performance tears. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, she continued. I know I can't undo the past, but I am sorry. I truly am. I let the silence sit for a moment. Apology heard, I said finally. Now let's talk about your start date. And so, my ex-best friend came to work for my company, just like my ex-husband. The first few weeks were awkward. Derek and Jasmine seeing each other in the hallways. Both of them reporting, ultimately, to me. Both of them knowing that their entire livelihood depended on the woman they had once betrayed. I wondered if they talked about it at home. I wondered if they lay in bed at night, marveling at how completely the tables had turned. But honestly, I didn't care. I had built something that transcended them. Elevate Recruiting wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right, proving that I could take the worst moment of my life and transform it into something beautiful. Derek worked his way up to a senior position. He's good at his job, it turns out, when he's not distracted by affairs. Jasmine found her footing in operations. She's detail-oriented and organized, skills I had always known she had, but had never seen her apply productively. They're both still married, to each other, living in the house that used to be mine. But here's the thing. I don't want that house anymore. I don't want that life. I built something better, something entirely my own. When I told my grandmother that Derek and Jasmine both worked for me now, she laughed so hard she nearly fell out of her chair. Baby girl, she said, wiping tears from her eyes. That is the most delicious karma I have ever heard of. I didn't plan it, I told her. They came to me. Of course they did. That's how it works. You focus on building your life, and the universe takes care of the rest. She looked at me with such pride, the same way she had looked at me when I graduated college, the same way she had looked at me when I started my company. You know what I'm proudest of? She asked. What? Not the company, not the money, not even the success. She took my hand. I'm proud that you gave them a chance. A lot of people would have used that power to crush them. You used it to lift everyone up, including yourself. I thought about crushing them, I admitted, for about 30 seconds. Thinking about it is human. Not doing it is grace. She passed away 8 months later, peacefully, in her sleep, at 84 years old. She lived just long enough to see me featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30. Well, 31 under 35 in my case. And to know that her investment had paid off 1,000 times over. I still talk to her sometimes, in my head. When I have a hard decision to make, I ask myself what Grandma Ruth would do. The answer is always the same. Build, don't destroy. People ask me sometimes if I'm grateful for what Derek and Jasmine did. If I see their betrayal as a blessing in disguise. That's a complicated question. I'm not grateful for the pain. I'm not grateful for the sleepless nights, the empty bank account, the months of depression. I'm not grateful for losing my faith in friendship and love. But I am grateful for who I became in response. Their betrayal forced me to become self-reliant. It forced me to discover strengths I didn't know I had. It forced me to build a life that depends on no one but me. Would I have started my company if I had stayed married? Maybe, maybe not. but I know I wouldn't have built it with the same fire, the same desperation, the same need to prove that I was more than they said I was. So no, I don't thank them, but I don't hate them anymore either. They're just people. Flawed, selfish people who made terrible choices and are living with the consequences. They're not villains in some story. They're human beings who did human things, and so am I. You know what I consider my real success? It's not the money. It's not the company. It's not even seeing Derek and Jasmine working under me. It's the fact that I can walk into my office every day and feel proud of what I've built. 47 people have jobs because of me. Hundreds of executives have found careers that changed their lives because of my company. I've created something that will outlast me. It's the fact that I can look in the mirror and respect the woman looking back. I haven't compromised my values. I haven't stepped on people to get ahead. I've built success the right way, with hard work, integrity, and a refusal to let bitterness define me. It's the fact that I can think about Derek and Jasmine without my stomach twisting, without anger, without pain, just acceptance. They exist. They work for me. It's a strange situation, but it's my situation, and I'm at peace with it. That peace, that's the real victory. Everything else is just details. A few months ago, Derek asked to speak with me privately. We were both working late. The office was empty. It felt like as good a time as any. I know we don't talk about personal things, he said, but I need to say something. Just once, and then I'll never bring it up again. I nodded for him to continue. I'm sorry, he said. Not because I work for you now, not because my life fell apart. I'm sorry because what I did was wrong. I made a vow to you, and I broke it in the worst possible way. I took everything from you and felt entitled to do it. I was a coward and a fool. He paused, gathering himself. You've been more than fair to me, more than generous. I don't deserve it, and I know that. But I want you to know that working here, seeing what you've built, seeing the person you've become, it's shown me exactly how wrong I was about you. What do you mean? I told myself that you were holding me back, that you weren't ambitious enough, successful enough, that I needed someone who matched my potential. He laughed bitterly. Look at us now. You're the CEO. I'm a sales manager. You built an empire. I can barely keep my marriage together. Derek, no, let me finish. You were never the problem, Maya. I was. I was always the problem, and I will spend the rest of my career trying to be worthy of the second chance you gave me. I didn't know what to say to Derek after his apology. Part of me wanted to hug him. Part of me wanted to laugh. Part of me wanted to point out that this moment of clarity had come about 5 years too late. But what I actually said was this. We can't change the past, Derek. We can only decide what we do with the future. Keep working hard. Keep being the person you're becoming. That's all any of us can do. He nodded and left my office. We've never spoken about it again. We probably never will, but something shifted between us that night. Not forgiveness exactly, more like closure. An acknowledgement that we had both changed, that the past was the past, and that dwelling on it served neither of us. I'm 31 years old. I have decades ahead of me, decades to build, to grow, to love again, to live fully. The woman who was betrayed 5 years ago, she's still part of me, she always will be. But she's not all of me, not anymore. I am Maya Thompson, founder, CEO, survivor, thriver, and my story is far from over. Last week, something interesting happened. Jasmine knocked on my office door. It was late afternoon, and most people had gone home. Do you have a minute? She asked. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat, but she looked uncomfortable, nervous. I know this is probably inappropriate, she started. And you can tell me to leave if you want. But I've been wanting to say something for months, and I can't hold it in anymore. I waited. I'm grateful, she said simply. Not just for the job, for the chance to become a different person. Working here, watching you lead, seeing how you treat people with fairness even when they don't deserve it. It's changed me. Jasmine, I know I can never undo what I did. I know we can never be friends again, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better. Because of you, because you showed me what strength actually looks like. She stood up, ready to leave. One more thing, she said at the door. Derek and we're getting divorced. It's been coming for a while. Turns out a relationship built on betrayal doesn't have a great foundation. I didn't know what to say. I'm not telling you this for sympathy, she continued. I'm telling you because you were right. What you said to me on the phone 5 years ago. I didn't win anything. I just inherited a coward and a house full of bad karma. After Jasmine left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking. 5 years ago, I caught my husband and best friend together. I lost everything. My marriage, my home, my savings, my faith in people. Today, my ex-husband works for me and respects me more than he ever did when we were married. My ex-best friend works for me and is going through the same pain she once caused me. The house they moved into together is about to be divided in a divorce settlement. And me? I'm sitting in my corner office running a multi-million-dollar company, at peace with my past and excited about my future. The universe has a sense of humor. Or maybe it has a sense of justice. Either way, I've learned to trust it. Everything I lost led me to everything I gained. Every tear I cried watered the seeds of my success. Every moment I wanted to give up was a moment that built my resilience. I wouldn't trade my journey for anything, not even to avoid the pain, because the pain made me who I am. 36 to 37, full circle audio, contemplative, meaningful. Script. After Jasmine left, I sat in my office for a long time thinking, 5 years ago, I caught my husband and best friend together. I lost everything. My marriage, my home, my savings, my faith in people. Today, my ex-husband works for me and respects me more than he ever did when we were married. My ex-best friend works for me and is going through the same pain she once caused me. The house they moved into together is about to be divided in a divorce settlement. And me? I'm sitting in my corner office running a multi-million-dollar company, at peace with my past and excited about my future. The universe has a sense of humor, or maybe it has a sense of justice. Either way, I've learned to trust it. Everything I lost led me to everything I gained. Every tear I cried watered the seeds of my success. Every moment I wanted to give up was a moment that built my resilience. I wouldn't trade my journey for anything, not even to avoid the pain, because the pain made me who I am. 37 minutes to 38 minutes. To the viewer, audio, warm, direct, empowering. Script. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed, abandoned, left with nothing, I want to talk directly to you. I know it hurts. I know it feels like the world is ending. I know you're lying awake at night wondering how you'll survive, whether you'll ever trust again, if the pain will ever stop. It will stop. I promise you. It will stop. Not tomorrow, not next week, maybe not even next year. But eventually, the pain will transform into something else, into wisdom, into strength, into a foundation for something incredible. You have a choice right now. You can let this define you as a victim, or you can let it refine you into a warrior. Choose warrior. Choose building over destroying. Choose your future over your past. The people who hurt you, they don't get to decide how your story ends. Only you decide that. Only you have that power. And I know that you have more power inside you than you realize. Let me leave you with some practical advice. Things I wish someone had told me when I was at my lowest. First, find your Grandma Ruth. Find that one person who believes in you unconditionally, who will tell you the truth, even when it's hard, who will remind you of your worth when you've forgotten it. Everyone needs someone like that. Second, start with what you know. You have skills, you have talents, you have things you're good at that maybe you've never monetized. That's your foundation. Build on it. Third, don't wait until you're ready. I wasn't ready to start my company. I was terrified. But I did it anyway, and I figured it out as I went. Readiness is a myth. Just start. Fourth, let go of revenge. I know it feels satisfying to imagine your enemies suffering, but that energy is better spent on your own success. Build so well that revenge becomes unnecessary. And fifth, be patient with yourself. Healing takes time. Success takes time. Becoming the person you're meant to be takes time. Don't rush it. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Just keep moving forward. 5 years ago, I had $200 and a broken heart. Today, I have a company, a purpose, and a peace I never thought possible. The woman who betrayed me now asks for my advice. The man who abandoned me now depends on my approval. Not because I sought revenge, but because I sought excellence. Not because I tried to bring them down, but because I focused on bringing myself up. My grandmother was right. They took everything from me except my mind. And my mind built something they couldn't imagine. If you're at your rock bottom right now, let me tell you something. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning. The painful, ugly, necessary beginning of something beautiful. You're going to look back on this moment someday, this exact moment when everything seems hopeless, and you're going to be grateful. Because this is where your transformation starts. Rise up, build something, become someone. Not for them, for you. That's the sweetest revenge there is. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go write yours. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, I share stories of women who faced impossible situations and came out stronger. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? I read every single comment. And remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters are still ahead. Until next time.